to this computer. So thank you very much, Katrina and Riku, for being with us for this seminar today. It's the third of our series. And so we had the first session where I made a mostly general introduction about lab schools. And last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a fantastic session with David Hopkins and his colleagues from the lab school network in Bolton. And they introduced a lot of fascinating things, but we didn't have time to discuss in the end because time was too short, the seminar was too short. So he kindly agreed to come back or send one of his colleagues for the second half of the seminar. So we have the first hour or a little bit more if we need for you to present the university training, teacher training schools in Finland. And I'm really delighted we managed to make it, even if you both said you were very busy and had little time to have these parallel presentations. So I think Katrina, you asked to speak first. So I'm going. Do you have a presentation? Do you need to be?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so I'll make you co-host so you can share your screen. Just a second. Katrina, where are you? Here. Okay, you're now co-host, so you should be able to share your screen. Is it working?
Did it work? It didn't work out. No, I have to do it again. Do you now see the screen?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay. So.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, my name is Katrina, and I'm the principal of the upper secondary school and IB school here at the Turku Teacher Training School. First, I'm going to tell a little bit. One slide is about our school, so that you know the context I'm talking about, and then about this research that is done in our school very shortly. And now you see this Turku Teacher Training School in numbers slide, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
A lot of students.
Good. So we are part of the Faculty of Education at the university, and we have here in one building the whole comprehensive school, primary and secondary level, all grades 1 till 9, and then the upper secondary school, where we have both the national curriculum and IBDB, and both take 3 years, the Finnish upper secondary school. Altogether, we are about 1,000 students and about 120 teachers. And we have here, during the school year, we have here about 400 different kind of student teachers. They can be student teachers for primary level. We call them class teachers. They can be subject teacher trainees. They can be adult education teacher trainees or special education teacher trainees. And then we have also some international teacher trainees sometimes. That is where we work. And I think, I don't know, Riku, if you are going to talk about this study experiment and develop, I don't know, it's not a project. It's kind of how we work. So we emphasize that the teachers should study something, do experiments in their classrooms, and develop their teaching. And for that kind of work, we have I just made this word TEXTE, study, experiment, and develop. We have coordinators here at school and a working group who organize all kind of activities for the teachers. And the aim of the activities is to encourage teachers to conduct all kind of pedagogical experiments and also to publish results in various forums. Usually they are Finnish forums. They can be Finnish papers or seminars or whatever. And we have here at school almost every month a so-called pedagogical or educational afternoon. So there we have some experts giving lessons. Like this autumn, we have the Professor Löfström giving a lecture about education for democracy in schools. So they have different topics. And because we have teachers from all levels, so also the topics have to be such that all teachers could be interested of the topic. Then the working group also aim to maintain cooperation with the university didactics teaching staff and with the university departments. So that's the tool how we work with them, with the university together. Our teachers can participate in different seminars at the university. They can be visitors and also presenters. And one big thing I think is that we have an agreement on study and writing leave. So the head of administration can say that, okay, if you have now a very important paper to write, you can stay out of school 1 week, 2 weeks, and with full payment. So that is something that we have had now a couple of years, and that's really good. We have, I think, 4 kinds of cooperation with the researchers. First, we have students, mainly secondary level or upper secondary level students taking part in research or surveys, interviews, the different kind of research. And then we have those student teachers as researchers here at school. Then we have teachers and university researchers in cooperation. And then we have teachers themselves as researchers. And what does this mean? First, when we have students taking part in research, they are usually individual researchers, also from other universities than ours, or from educational organizations. And if somebody wants to conduct a research in our school, they need from us a permission to conduct the research, and they can do it online. If there are questionnaires or surveys, there are 2 kinds of surveys. The students may answer them during a lesson or then individually in their free time. I can share the link for the survey online for the students. If there are any interviews like we have just had, we try to find a quiet space for that. And of course, when we are talking about students, young people, the participation is always voluntary. So we can't say anybody that you have to participate. But there are some challenges in that. And one, I think now, I have been a principal. This is my 5th year as principal, and I have given permission for several researchers to conduct research here at school. But I don't ever get a research paper when the research is done. And I find this a little bit annoying. So nowadays I really carefully choose what kind of research will be done here at school, whether we will get the results or not, whether the researcher will come to school and explain about the results or what's going to happen afterwards. And then one big challenge is that there is every year some compulsory national surveys where the students have to answer to. So we have to ask ourselves here at school, so how many surveys does a student want to answer? So when does the student say, oh no, not another survey again, we don't want to do that, I just filled in 1 survey and so because it's not their work, it's not, even though they are in a university school, they just can't be some answering machines, the students. So it has to be motivational and so this is, I don't know, Riku, if you have any any answer to this kind of problem, but I think it is sometimes a real problem.
Excuse me, Katrina.
Yes.
Can we ask a few questions, or do you prefer questions at the end?
You can now, if you have any questions, please do ask.
Yeah, I was wondering, what is the topic of the compulsory national surveys? The general topic?
Yes,
What
it's usually the topic of the national surveys. They are mostly about the well-being of the students. They are Well, usually they are about the well-being of the students. That is something that the government wants to know every year. So last year the students answered to a survey about their well-being and free time and school and everything like that. And now we got the results. And now next autumn, spring, they will answer to that survey again. So we see. The impact of our work here at school, how well are our students doing and what kind of problems they have and so on. I think the national surveys are really important for our work here at school.
Okay, thank you. And the topic of the researchers that are done at your school, is it the same kind of topic, or is it very various?
It's various. It's really various. Somebody wanted to, for example, one student who was studying, I don't know how to put it. I don't know even how to put it in Finnish. She wanted to know about the meaning of clothes for the young students. Things like that. They can be whatever. It can be about their hobbies. It can be about. And now I think we will take part to a survey about democracy. What do the students think of democracy and how democratic? How if they feel that they are treated. The same as the others. Now I'm sorry, I'm missing the English words now, but the topics are really various. And because we are very multicultural school, I didn't have that in numbers, but almost half of our upper secondary school students have immigrant background or they are from abroad. So this is a very nice school to make surveys about life in Finland and what they are doing in life and about families and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
So then we have the student teachers as researchers. So if you want to become a subject teacher, you have to do 1 year pedagogical studies. And during the pedagogical studies, they have to write a short thesis, and it can also be a classroom study. And I think this is I like this kind of research because it helps the student teachers to see what is happening when they are teaching. If they have a goal or aim in their teaching, they can check whether their students have acquired all the knowledge that they had wanted to deliver, things like that, or the motivational aspects of any subject, things like these. And in our teacher training and teacher education, we emphasize these teachers as researchers in their own work. So how to reflect on your teaching, how to reflect on your cooperation with the students. And I really would like to see more studies like this done in our school. So during the pedagogical studies, when they are doing their practical part, practicum here in our school. And then the teachers and university researchers in cooperation. We have with the university researchers different kind of projects. One was, for example, this is free translation from text to text, where they are exploring reading and writing practices in environmental environmental education. So how do the students understand what they read and how it reflects or how it impacts the way that they are writing about the topic in environmental education. And then what I think is very important is this in the Teacher Expert Look project. You know this, that when you are a new teacher, a young teacher, you just can't see everything that is happening in a classroom. You see maybe the students in the first row, but you just can't see the back of the classroom. You can't sort of read the faces or motions of the students, and you just can't see everything what is happening in the classroom. And that is what they are trying to find out, monitor how student teachers learn to make expert observations and decisions in teaching situations. I used to be a teacher of German. I was a teacher more than 25 years, and I had teacher trainees a lot. And I do remember the situation when a student teacher said that, oh, I didn't see those students in my classroom.
Mm.
They just couldn't see everything. So I think this is very important to study how we can help the student teachers to become experts in observations.
If I can just jump in with a short question on that before I forget. Do you have any framework that you give the teachers? Like last year we talked a lot about the classroom assessment scoring system by Pianta, developed by Pianta and his team. Or I mean, how do you make them become expert and know what to observe?
I have nothing to do with this project, but how we, of course, before the teacher trainees can have a lesson, we discuss the lesson, we discuss the lesson plan, and then as a teacher trainer, the teachers are sitting in the back of the classroom and observing what is happening in the classroom and how the teacher trainer is doing the lesson, and then we have a discussion afterwards. And in those discussions and the reflections of the students, then they step by step learn to realize everything that is happening in the classroom. And when they spend here with us, they are, I don't know, maybe 6 months altogether during the pedagogical studies. Usually they learn to see the classroom as whole, that they can then see what's happening there. But in the first lessons, they just don't see anything, they don't hear anything. They are so concerned about their own working there. I sometimes a teacher trainer said to me, well, I was just thinking all the time, where should I put my hands?
Yeah.
And that's the main thing during the lesson, that what do I do with my hands? So we start with that.
Good question.
Yeah. And because we are a very multicultural school, so there have been an interview research on culturally responsible practices. And then the newest one here in the upper secondary level has been the role of AI in teaching of writing Finnish. So there has been 2 groups of students. The other one, they have got a topic that they have to write about. And the one group were able to use AI, asking the AI questions about the topic. What kind of content should we have there? What kind of aspects should we take into account? And they then wrote the work together with the help of the AI. And the other one wasn't able to use AI, but they were able to discuss together about the topic. But I haven't seen the results yet. And then there have been joint articles. The latest one is written by two didactic teachers and two of our English teachers. And this was about the English skills of the students in the pre-DP year. So in Finland, IB diploma program takes 3 years, even though in other countries it might take only 2 years, because we have this pre-diploma program year where the students learn to study in English and use English as an academic language. So they studied how confident the students become during the pre-DP year in English. And then we have with the university researchers, we have workshops where the teachers and the university researchers, for example, they can study a topic and write something as a group. And it is really difficult because it's so challenging to find time to work together. Here at school, the school ends. For some teachers, it can end at 2 o'clock. For some teachers, it can end at 4 o'clock. For university researchers, they have different timetables. So that is not very active right now. And then we have teachers themselves as researchers. We are about 5 subject teachers with PhD.
Out of 120 teachers, you said, right?
Yeah, altogether. And at this moment, at least 5 teachers are working on the doctoral thesis. And usually the teachers, like myself, I did it. I didn't have much leave from work, so you do it during the weekends, so when you have holidays or things like that. So it's quite hard. Some of them will get some funding from a project so that they can stay away from work and just concentrate on their PhD. And these are some topics that are going on now, like it's both about literature in Finnish. So our teachers don't do the PhD only for the Faculty of Education. They can do it also for Faculty of Humanities. Okay, that was what I was able to find during a couple of days that I last week I was in Bangkok.
Yeah.
Doing some trying to find some sister schools there, and this is what I was able to do for this session. But any questions that you have?
Yeah, sure. Well, you have a sister school in France. If you want, you're most welcome anytime.
Good.
I mean, here we're at the School for Advanced Studies in Social Sciences, which is a research institute, and students are only from master and above. But I also founded the first lab schools in France, and we just started IBDP this year. So
Yeah.
it's maybe something we can talk about on a different occasion. Yeah, I had one. Well, you partly answered one of my questions, which was how do you make sure when you give time the papers are finished, and how do you manage to work together? And so I can see that we face the same kind of challenges, and maybe it could be a research topic on its own. I also noted that you said, well, some people are working on their thesis during the weekends and the evening, and of course it's not the optimal conditions to do a PhD, but at the same time, people who decide to do that is also that they're passionate about this subject, and so I think it's a very difficult question.
That is a very difficult question, and it's also that doing research doesn't sort of belong to the work of a teacher,
No.
but working in a working in a teacher training school, it sort of we emphasize that we just can't say to anyone that you have to do some research, but we try to give the opportunities, like being away from school with full salary, so that these teachers can concentrate on writing, researching, and writing. So that is what we can do. But otherwise, if there aren't any grants or any other possibilities to finance the research, then it is difficult.
Yes. And you also mentioned these study and writing leaves. Is it something for which teachers have to apply? Do they have to submit a proposal? And you said that now you were more careful to make sure that you see the papers in the end. I'm really interested in how you, because you can't guarantee. I mean, something can always happen.
Everything can always happen, but it's the head of the school who decides. Then the teacher has to have a discussion with the head of the school, and then they decide together, for example, how many, is it a 1 week or 2 weeks? Usually 2 weeks if you are finalizing your PhD work.
Okay.
Thesis,
so
yeah. But and for shorter articles, it can be a couple of days or 1 week. Depends on the work that you are working on.
And then are the teachers substituted? I mean, do they have somebody else in front of the children?
Yes. Yeah. We always have substitute teachers. So it is a little bit expensive for the school, but we just can't say that we want the teachers to study, experiment, and develop unless we give them some possibilities for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. I really would like to go on with this discussion, and maybe later in the year we can have a different setting and different workshop. But I would like also to give the floor to Riku, who also has.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll write to you about and
Can I just ask a quick question before we move on? A quick question for Katrina. You mentioned the pedagogical studies and the student teachers as researchers. I wanted to know, how do teachers react to that, to them doing some research? Do they enjoy it? How do they see? How do they like doing some research by themselves?
I have never asked. That was a good question. I've been making a research here. Maybe Riku can explain this a little bit better with better English, but it's something that if you're working in this school, then it's part of the school tradition, so to say, that we do here research, and there are researchers in the classrooms, and it's just part of the job when you are a teacher at the teacher training school. And the student teachers, they are here, they just belong to our staff almost, so that they are here, and we are here because of them. I mean, we exist, our school exists because teacher training.
Okay. So you mean it's implied in their curriculum that they know that research is an important part of the teaching activity, and they agree this, because this is the big assumption. As a teacher, you're not taught how to do research usually. I mean, I'm talking about France, so maybe I can see that here you have a different model.
But not all teacher trainees do some kind of research in the classroom. If mostly they want to read theories and then do something theoretical, because it is a little bit easy, I must say. But I think the best ones, they do a classroom research, even a small one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. It was very interesting, and I'm curious to see Rico's presentation. Do you have also a slide, Rico? Shall I make you co-host this time?
Rico, now I have to say I'm really sorry, but I have to go. I would have loved to hear your presentation, but
I'll send you the link if you have time later on.
Yeah, good.
So enjoy all the celebration in your school, and happy Independence Day.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you very much, and
very,
Merry
very much.
Christmas. Yeah. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello,
Okay.
Rico. So thank you very much also for being with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. Maybe I could just answer to Stephanie's question about how do the teachers experience the research. So I would say that it's like very various ways. So some of the teachers take it as a part of their job, and it is in our strategy that we do experimentation, develop pedagogy, and do research. But of course, like the serious research, when you publish an article, it's it's not very easy always, and that's why I would say majority of the teachers stick with the experimentation and development. So it's like a smaller scale of doing research.
Yeah, thank you.
And also in our school, maybe just to say that there are like the gap between theory and practice. So there are some who are more on the side of practice and don't see the value so much in the theory and research, and they just want to emphasize the importance of having a lot of experience from teaching. And I think that's the same thing in like universal phenomena. Okay, but my presentation, I just have some basic information about our school, and then I can just tell about the research. So I don't have slides for that, so I can tell about it and you can ask questions.
Sure.
But so I'm from Oulu University Teacher Training School, and it's one of the teacher training schools in Finland. So Katrina was from Turku, and this is a bit north from Turku. And our school is founded in 1609. So it has a long history. It operates in 4 units. So there's 2 primary schools and 1 secondary school and 1 upper secondary school, and about 1,100 pupils and students. In basic education, we have 850 students, and I work as a principal of basic education. And in upper secondary education, we have 250 students. And student teachers, 600 student teachers every year come to our school and train to be teachers someday. And about 140 staff members. And we are part of the UNESCO network, and that's something we try to show, and which is visible in our pedagogy and practices for sustainable future. And there you can see Turku also over there, and Oulu is in green, so that shows the way we are mapped in Finland, and we are one of those. Some collaborative networks we have in our school. I think most of these you don't know.
Yeah.
But usually when I show this to someone abroad, they know Kiva. Kiva is one in one of the corners, and
Yeah.
at least some people know that it's a anti-bullying program developed in Finland, and it's used also in some other countries.
Yeah.
But that's usually the only one. So but it shows that we value movement inside the school day. So we think it's important for students to move during the classes and on the breaks. So there's one of these is Liikkuva koulu, is like a moving school. So that's something. And then networks abroad, UNESCO, as I said, European Teacher Education Network, eTwinning, Erasmus, Sofia, European SchoolNet. And maybe some of these are familiar to you.
Well, at least Lycée Pilote Innovant in France is familiar.
Sorry, what?
The collaborative school Lycée Pilote Innovant in Poitiers, so in France, on the right hand side in the green square.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So the core function in our school is education and teaching. And I would put there in front of that I would put good education and teaching. And it's always interesting to start talking about what do we mean by good education and teaching. But maybe not at this point. We won't start talking about that. But it's the core function. And of course, because we are a teacher training school, we have other functions. And sometimes it seems that it gets lost. Like we've been talking about research a lot, but it's good to remember that the core function is education and teaching. So we are there for the kids. We have like the future generation is in our school, and we have to keep the main focus on them. So we organize the teaching. We also organize guided teacher training for class, subject, and special needs teachers. We participate in research and experimental development. And at this point, I could maybe say about the research. So I would say that in our school, I think we are fortunate in a way that we have a group of teachers who are very interested in mentoring. And mentoring is part of the work we do when we organize the teacher training, because mentoring happens with student teachers every day in our school. And because we have we have 2 PhDs almost ready to or finalized, and there are some others who are also very interested on mentoring. So that's just a good thing that we have those kind of people, because of course research, you have to have it in your heart to be very interested in the topic that you do. So for example, my interest, or when I did my PhD, was doing philosophy with children.
Oh,
And yeah, so that's my special interest, and I'm still doing some research on that field, and that's actually also we have some Finnish academia projects. The academia of Finland is usually giving like a bigger bunch of money that you can use to bigger projects. So the old university, there are, for example, Karin Murris is working as a professor, and she's also interested in doing philosophy with children, and now we are studying um, about the topic of death and dying, and how to use philosophical discussions on dealing with those topics. So that's one of the research projects that is going on in our school right now. Of course, it's international study, so there's a lot of things going on also outside the school, but the empirical part is happening in our school. And another research that is just starting, actually a couple of weeks ago was the launch of the research project, is Deliberate. The title is Deliberate, and it studies democratic education. And there's theoretical dimension, or a group of people doing theoretical research, and there's empirical research, and then there's the doing philosophy with children is one dimension also, and there's going to be some empirical research on that, and studying the ways that doing philosophy can be beneficial for democratical attitudes and skills. So those are a couple examples from the nearest that are happening right now in our school. And then we also
ask a short question about that. Do you have already publication about this philosophy with children and the democratic education projects? Because both are very close to my interests.
So what was the question?
Do you have publications already, or are you planning to publish things?
I have publications, yes, about the topic, and the projects that are the deliberate about the democratic education. The project is starting. So a couple weeks ago was the launch of the project. So the publications are still to come.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do have publications. I wrote a book, but it's in Finnish.
Ah.
There's a book on that, but
I can read Swedish, but not Finnish so far. Not yet, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. And then we also organize in-service training and education export. That's one of our functions also. And these are a couple examples of what we do. So professional learning in mentoring is one thing that we give. training too, and then professional learning in educational leadership and management, and also assessment for learning. So we have some groups coming, or then there might be some teachers going to some other country to give training in these areas.
Okay. I saw before that you mentioned Erasmus also as partners, and so I wondered. I also see on this slide that you have 100% online teaching. Is it? Do you sometimes have collaboration with school in the framework of Erasmus programs?
Yes, we have some projects. Right now we have some teachers going abroad. I don't remember the countries, but they are going to with Erasmus money, or they are using Erasmus money, and actually the Erasmus project, or the collaboration, is now coordinated among all the teacher training schools in Finland. So it has changed in the near past that it's coordinated among all the teacher training schools. But yeah, I remember it was not that many years ago when we had a collaboration, and it was an Erasmus project. Yeah, it was just before COVID, so we were supposed to go to another country, but it didn't happen because of COVID, and then we had everything like online.
Yeah, that's exactly the reason why I asked. We had a similar experience with the LabSchoolsEurope project, where we were supposed to visit different lab schools, and it was a project that associated university schools schools and the universities, and it was both research and practice. It was really interesting, and we also had the COVID in the middle of the project, which forced us to do part of the project online. But we would really like to start a new European project. And I was thinking, depending on which topic we choose, it could be something that's, I think philosophy with children is very interesting. And Katarina was mentioning involving students in research process, which we're also doing in Paris. And that was one of my other questions for you, is whether you involve the students in your research. But I finished with the first question. So the idea of this whole seminar is also to have a space where we can meet and reflect. And I see we have people from Czech Republic, for instance. Next session will be about Czech Republic. My colleague Marlene is also in touch with people from Slovakia. So we really would like to start a new Erasmus project. And of course, it can't be only democratic education as we did last time. We have to find a new approach. But I think how we involve children in thinking and research processes would be very interesting, and your interest about children philosophy, I think, is make it very convergent.
Yeah, I think there's like doing research and doing philosophy, or so the thinking process is itself, it's a scientific process if you if you think about, like, at least the way, of course you can do philosophy in different ways, but the way I do it is that we start with hypotheses and then we start to explore, and so it's a kind of scientific process that we can do also by doing philosophy. So yeah, there could be some ideas in that. And just maybe to finalize my presentation, so this is just something that the person who is in charge of this education export wanted me to tell you, that you are all invited to Midnight Sun Summer School. So this year it happens in June, and the theme is mentoring. So that's our I would say, the very we have a very intelligent people talking about mentoring who are very invested in that topic.
That would be very interesting. I'll check the program. It may be of interest to some colleagues or maybe some teachers. And I strongly recommend Midnight Sun. Last year I was in a international conference in Trondheim in Norway about this time of the year. It was mid-June, and I have collaboration with a school in Norway. So it's really, something I strongly recommend to all our participants if you're interested in mentoring.
Yeah.
And this question of mentoring, I mean, I have two more questions, but maybe I will also leave the floor to my colleagues. But one of the questions is, do you also have the same type of challenge as Katrina was mentioning regarding time and managing time to make people work together besides school hours? And if you don't, how do you manage not to have it? And if you do, how do you manage to face the challenge?
Well, it was only today when we were having coffee and there were some teachers and they were talking about the lack of time and they were like trying to remember what it was about 10 years ago, and they felt that they had more time 10 years ago than they have now. And so it is a challenge, and it's something it's very hard to tackle because we have two teacher students who come to our school to practice, and so there's the mentoring, and it takes a lot of time to mentor, and it takes your breaks, and that's something that has always been there and still is, but then just in the teacher's work in general, it seems that there's more and more filling forms, doing some like maybe not administrative work, but some just filling forms. There's a lot more filling forms in Finland. Actually, we have a new law coming to the student support. It's coming to next year, and it is supposed to put that down, like put some of the administrative work away from teachers. So there is people have awakened into that problem, and there's things trying to be done to that problem. But yeah, it is a problem. Maybe I just want to finish my answer by saying that I do think that it's also about how you take that. How do you what do you do about it yourself? Like how do you take all the pressure and all the fuss that is going around you? So I at least from my own experience, I can say that you just have to try to see the beauty in all the all the interesting things that is happening around you, and then you can feel ease with the stress. Yeah.
Well, that seems to be a very nice philosophy. And actually, I don't know about the other participants, but we have this. I have this picture of Finland because of PISA, because of all the things we hear and read about Finland. That it seems to be like paradise for teacher, but maybe it's not that easy there either.
Yeah, it's not that easy. Yeah.
And my second question was actually about mentoring, because you just mentioned it was time consuming. Do you have any specific framework for mentoring? Because it's not easy to go watch what's happening in a classroom and then give some feedback, being constructive, making people feel good and not feeling that they're being, trapped or observed just to criticize them. So do you have any special framework for that?
Yes, we have a framework, and we have training every year in mentoring. So we have one afternoon every fall where our staff comes together, and the specialists give training in mentoring. And I'm trying to, so we have because I've been doing the principal work sometimes, so I'm getting to forget the structure, but so there is a different dimensions of teaching and where you can focus on as a mentor. So there's the group management, for example, and there are some questions that you can talk about with the student teacher. And then there's the substance, and then there's didactics. So there are like different dimensions of teaching and managing relationships. And you can focus on different times, on different dimensions with and maybe you can, when you have that framework, you can also as a mentor, you can observe, you can just pick up, okay, let's take the managing relationships. How do this student teacher, what is going on in this dimension? Like what happens? And then you can just focus on that. And that's, I think, that is very helpful, especially for some staff members who are quite new in the field. So I think that's especially then it's very helpful. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question among the audience or no? Yeah, please, Marek.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much to your very interesting presentation and to your sharing your experience. I am from University of Ostrava, and we prepare new projects, university school, like our schools. And I have question about your role of your school in your regions. Uh, it's your school some inspiration for other school in your regions, and is there cooperation and collaboration with a teacher from other school? Some inspiration?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, well, there we as teacher training schools are like they are part of the university. So, for example, our school is part of Oulu University, and all the other schools are part of the municipalities. So they have different administration. So we have all the systems that we have are different. And so the similarity that we have is that we are both schools, but the reason that we are part of the university and we have this special task of teacher training means that actually the other schools around our school, they don't even try to take like the teacher training is something that only we can do in Finland. So they don't even try to do anything like that because it's not their mission to do that. But of course, then they get inspiration. I feel I know that some of them get inspiration from the research that we have done and from the specialists that we have on different areas in teaching. And from our school, there might be a teacher who can go to another school and tell about some area of education or teaching that he or she has specialized. So that kind of cooperation there is. Yeah, but the teacher training part is not something that other schools try to copy or to get inspired of. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question for Riku? I feel like with Katarina, it would be nice to have a longer meeting where we take specific questions, and maybe we could have one meeting where we brainstorm to plan for a Erasmus project. But I think if we start talking about it now, maybe by the end of the year, we can build up a real good project together with interested people.
Yeah.
And maybe meet you in June then.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you very, very much. And we now have for the and is there anything you want to add, or anything anybody wants to add before we close this session on Finland?
Well, I just want to tell anyone, maybe, yeah, I want to finish by just giving you a philosophical statement.
Nice.
So everybody knows, or if you agree, that Santa Claus knows who is dirty and who is nice, or who is bad and who is nice, behaving badly or nicely. So if you agree to that, then you have to agree that we have a universal laws of morality. And then you can start thinking if that's the case, and talking about if it's actually the case or not. So that was something I I had a discussion today with some students, because first they said that of course Santa Claus knows who is naughty and who is nice, and then, but if there is a universal law that says about what is good and bad, that's more difficult. Okay.
That's a very nice question to end up this part of the seminar. Thank you so much, Riku. Thank you. And you're welcome to stay if you have time. And
well, I don't have time.
I know.
I have 5 minutes to be in another place.
Oh, sorry. Well, thank you so much for making time to talk to us today, and we'll be in touch next few weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
So, bye-bye. And now it's my really great pleasure to welcome Craig and Stacy. For those of you who were at the seminar 2 weeks ago, you heard David and his colleagues presenting this wonderful network around Bolton University schools. And it was kind of frustrating. So thank you very much, Craig and Stacy, for joining us today and making the discussion possible. Can you hear us? Can you hear us well?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So I believe David has created this session for a question and answer session. Is that something you want to open up with, or would you like an overview for people who potentially weren't at the last meeting?
It could be nice to have a short overview if you can.
I'm quite aware that people have been sat listening for a while, so maybe a stretch or a move around might be helpful.
We can't hear very well because the room sounds very, I mean, there's a lot of echo. I don't know.
Do you think you could get closer to the microphone, maybe? That would be great.
Very close.
Maybe it's if you're on a video conference setup and you have a big mic, a big microphone, that might be the case. Maybe if you can use only your computer's microphone.
Is that better?
Not really.
Everybody has 2 minutes and we'll just get the audio started. Yeah, just, do you want to get done? So I have 2 minutes.
Sure. So Zahin just wrote to me that she needs 2 minutes to get the audio sorted. So it should be better. Meanwhile, I'm happy to see Lenka here. So Lenka will be one of the presenter for next session in 2 weeks about Czech Republic, about the school.
Is that better? Is that any better? Can you hear us?
Not really better.
It's the same.
Yeah, lots of echoes or lots of resonance. Yeah.
Is that any better?
Is that better?
Mm,
It mustn't be our end then.
yeah, I think it's better.
It's better.
Is it
Yeah.
better? I'm so sorry, colleagues. You've all been so busy.
Don't worry. No, don't worry. Thank you very much for making the
You're
change.
welcome. So just an overview. I've been a part of the Bolton University Laboratory Schools for about 4 years. I'm the head teacher of a primary school, which is ages 4 to 11, and it's very local to the university. And we've been practicing everything that David Hopkins talks about for about 4 years, and we feel we're at a point now where we don't want to say we're experts, but we do feel that we could be helpful to partners if people are interested in having conversations. So I presented my primary school last 2 weeks ago, and I think you might have had sight of that PowerPoint, and I popped my email on the bottom if you wanted to contact. For me, though, what it creates is it creates a platform for staff to be open to professional dialogue about making teaching and learning better all the time, but it's a done with process rather than a done to process. In England, we have Ofsted, which is our regulatory body, and that's a very done to process. So this counterbalances it so that school development can happen in a way which teachers are being learners together for the good of the context of the schools. And there's so many facets I could talk about, but I'm quite conscious that you've sat for a long time this morning. I've got no visuals to show you today. So does anybody want to ask Craig and I any questions about where we're at as a university, or what might be the next steps, or even tell us about your journey up to now?
I had a question. I heard last time several, I don't remember if it was you or some of the other colleagues, talking about appreciative inquiry, which I heard a lot about a few years ago, because I happen to know one of the promoters for appreciative inquiry in France. And we're just thinking about trying to implement it in our school, not only for professional development, but also to think about the school in a long run, because I started the school 7 years ago, but it's a private school, it's an NGO, like association, and we really would like the school to go on for a long time, and we really would like to involve the teachers to have their words to say about this the school and what it will become.
So in England, we have a culture, probably nationwide, where lesson observations, if that translates well enough, that it's a done to process. So in many schools,
it's often a deficit model as well.
Yeah, definitely a deficit model, whereas appreciative inquiry is exactly the opposite. So my school, for example, we don't have any lesson observations. We just have appreciative inquiry. And we do it as a whole school to look at the entire pedagogy to start off with. And then we do it on a smaller scale with a lens looking at specifics, because I think until your staff understand what appreciative inquiry is and the benefits of it as a whole, and we do it together, then they can understand how in minute detail that they can pick up really good practice in the setting that they're in and actually multiply that.
I think something else that's key, I heard somebody discussing mentoring and coaching and having frameworks in place. I think for appreciative inquiry, you need a cultural shift potentially. You need frameworks, you need guidance and training around the language that's used in feedback and kind of common language that's used to remove any misconceptions and unwanted judgments. And I think if you've been working in a certain model for an extended period of time, it can be problematic to move to that, and it can take a little bit of work. I think once you achieve it, it's a really powerful model then.
Yes, and it's just one aspect of what David talks about, but I think it's the most powerful aspect. And I absolutely agree with Craig that it's about a culture shift. So if the person at the top's not got that at the heart of their agenda, then you'll be fighting against the tide. So it really does come from the top of the leadership, whatever that will look like in your settings, and to put everything into it, because you're moving from a position where it's a top-down model to being equal and bringing equality to teachers, that everybody's voice is as important as each other's, is the turning point. Because when they're as invested as everybody else, and we're all in it for the greater good, and nobody fears anybody coming into the classrooms looking at anything, then it's win-win, triple win for everybody. I've just created a one-page profile. I'll just put it up to the camera, which is about best practice in the northwest of England, but it's a one-page profile about appreciative inquiry in my school. And that's going to be distributed northwest wide. And I just would like to read 3 quotes from some of my teachers, just so that you know it's not just that head teacher from Bolton who's saying it's brilliant. I'll have to put my glasses on. It's my age, everybody. Observations used to make me feel anxious. Now it feels like a celebration of practice. Instructional rounds and the theories of action help me to improve my teaching. And finally, it's an honour to share best practice through school collaboration. So it's not Stacey as a head teacher saying that it's brilliant, or David. It's actually our most valuable people who are on the shop floor, I call it, the people at the front of the classrooms. And one more thing that I'd like to stress is it creates authentic relationships amongst your staff, because you can go and be vulnerable about something that you think your practice doesn't have, and go and seek out somebody who's got that strong practice, and you can work together. And we've got a coaching philosophy at school, which is another aspect of what David suggests as well. I could talk for hours about everything, so I do apologise if...
No, don't. I think it's really very, very important. And I've been looking for frameworks for a long time. And for instance, we also have this idea of a learning organization where everybody is a lifelong learner, and where support and trust is part of it's one of the ingredients of the organization. But you can say that as a school founder, you can share it with, we have a board of directors, so we really share, because I think it's one person alone cannot do things properly. So we all share these ideas, but even sharing these ideas, when you have new people coming, new teachers, new staff members, it's really hard to build a solid and permanent culture. You're talking about cultural shift, and this is the culture we've been trying to implement from the very beginning. And you just said something very important about common language, and that's one of the very important thing, I think, when new people come, that we have to take them on board and manage to share this culture that we want to implement. And it's always easy because it must not be person dependent. And so that's why I'm thinking at the moment about what kind of process can you implement to make sure that even if I or my close colleagues are not at the head of the school anymore, how can we make sure that this will survive? Because I think it's one of the most important things that we can do for the students.
But we have governors who oversee our school, and it's a part of our policy that appreciative inquiry is our monitoring tool. And just to not scare colleagues, I've only ever had 2 whole school instructional rounds, which is an appreciative inquiry process.
Okay.
So within 4 years. So and then and have you seen a theories of action overview? Have you seen one yet? A completed one?
Not a completed one. No, we just heard what you talked about last time. But I think...
So I'll send one to you. So we've got the first one had 9 areas, and then the second one, 10 areas, and the second one had 9, and that's based on David Hopkins' work about his curriculum, which I think you've seen on a slide before, which has strands of pedagogy. So it could be questioning, metacognition, it could be collaboration, it could be relationships, it could be environment. And from that, we take out one of those strands, and then we have a coaching model on that strand. We have training, coaching model, and then we move on to the next theories of action. So we are going round and round and round and round, because everybody, whether it's across the world or just in England, you can go on a training session, think that's brilliant, that's I call it a golden nugget, and then you come back to school and it's a busy environment and you forget the golden nugget. So it's about that cyclical process of returning to what makes teachers great, what makes learning the best it can be. So that's how we've done that. And I'm not so sure that that's common in all the lab schools, but that's the model that works for my school.
Oh, that's really interesting. I don't want to ask all the questions. I want to leave the floor for the other participants. Do you have any questions for our friends from Bolton? Otherwise, while you reflect upon that, I also had a question about how do you implement that with students as well? Because I guess if you want to make culture, do you have any explicit teaching about how to talk to each other? Or
shall I go? So we have our student agency in learning, which is a part of the fact that children should be able to coach each other, which is in the top classes, year 5 and 6. I don't know if that's the same where you are. And they are using, again, what Craig said, that common language. So it's taken the judgment away from children's learning process and brought back the constructive conversations. We have a lot of children in my class who have got English as an additional language. Generally, I've got about 85% of children who speak 2-3 languages. We see that as a superpower, not a barrier.
Yeah,
absolutely. I only speak one. So and they've got that process, and we do meta missions, they're called, which is like a metacognition and a mission together. And they work through something called rubrics, which is a framework to show how they can self-improve without independently, basically. So, and all that's come from the laboratory school practice as well. And I know colleagues in other schools have got so much practice that's a little bit different to Beaumont, but has its own merit. And the context of your school is different wherever you are. So you have to choose what's right for you and your staff at the same time.
I think just not necessarily from a lab skills point of view, but I teach on our teacher training courses for secondary and for further education. And one of the things we encourage with our trainee teachers is that they have a dialogue with students. Whenever they're introducing something, they give them the reason why, they give them the process, and obviously they will simplify the language so that students can access it. But we've said that the importance of students knowing why you're doing a certain thing, why that benefits learning. I think sometimes it's too easy to dismiss that aspect of teaching and assume students don't need to know why. But we found that if you have that conversation and you explain in a way that they can understand, that they're much more likely to come with you on that journey. And it's actually beneficial from a learning point of view, because they can take those good practices and they can use that for revision and independent study. So you're not only creating better relationships, more trusting relationships with the students, but you're actually giving them the tools to become better independent learners as well. So that kind of narration of your thought process, we've said that, say that out loud, say it to your students so that they know the reasons why you're doing certain things.
The modelling of that process is important. And David's document, Curiosity, a Powerful Learning Framework, has all that in, all the rubrics are there. And I think David shared that with you. And that the word curious is linked with the lifelong learning, isn't it? And the great thing about Bolton University is that anybody who's involved in the lab schools gets an option to do their masters. So I've just completed my masters in education with the university last year, which was on coaching and the effects of that within my school. So to link up with Bolton, and that can be done remotely, it doesn't just benefit the children and the teachers, it can benefit anybody who wants to be a role model for being a lifelong learner. And the children, and I tell the children, this is why I'm doing it, because I don't know everything, even though they think I do. I don't know everything, and we can share that. So yeah, it's been instrumental for my leadership. I'm in 7 years now, and 4 years of it have been with the lab schools. So it fell in my lap as well. I just felt like it was meant to be. So it's all good. I'd love to come over though to some of your schools.
Oh, it would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm really bad though. I only speak English. I do apologize. That's typical of us.
Bilingual, so the kids would manage, I think. I mean, the teaching languages are French and English, but of course we have also students from a lot of international students. So we have, I don't know, Japanese, Russian, or Norwegian we had last year.
Wow. I went to Sweden 3 years ago in the Kunskapsskolan schools. Where student agency was at the heart of it as well. So that was inspirational. But yeah, we have a lot to learn from each other, colleagues, and I'm sure.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, you sat there quiet, but there will be pockets of brilliance everywhere. And this is a platform to share that, isn't it?
It is, yeah, nuggets everywhere. And do you have student councils talking about these places where students' agencies can be fostered?
Oh, we have school parliament. We don't even bother with councils anymore.
Okay.
We have our MPs, and there's about 7 of them now, and they've just decided that they want fencing as an extracurricular club. So the wish is my command. I will not be fencing. I have got somebody in. But yes, and it's funny you should say, really, because only this week something's happened and the students are coming to me and I'm thinking, I think I've created beasts, because these children are so confident, and I'm worried, not worried, that's probably the wrong word. I'm mindful and curious about how they're going to be treated when they go to the high school, because I think it gets a little bit lost because they're seen as little again. Whereas actually these children have got so much to give, and that they are lifelong learners already and full of ambition and leadership. We actually have Beaumont University set up in my school, which is sponsored by Bolton University. Mm-hmm. So we're always talking about aspirations and about how we can better ourselves and that we never should stop learning. So yeah, it's I'm very proud of my school, as you can probably hear.
Yeah, well, yeah, rightly so. And well, I think it's interesting what you say about school parliament and council, because we also had, I don't know if it's still the case, but we had school parliament and with representatives from each class, from grade 1 to grade 10 at that time. And the kids loved it, but they still needed the class council to solve little problems where we have these 3 rubrics with, I have a proposition, I have a problem, and also this, in French, we call that coup de cœur. I think it's shout out when you want to express your gratitude for someone, whether a peer, a friend, or teachers who help you. So it's also a nice institutionalized way of showing gratitude. And so they still need that, because when there is, for instance, a problem between 2 students, or if they have a proposition which is not for the whole school but for the class, they need this space.
But then again, you've got your model there with your shared language, and all children can access it because it's being spoken to by the whole school. So consistency is the key, isn't it? We've got 3 very quiet people here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Anybody like to ask a question, or Stephanie? I think
no, I just wanted to say I'm sorry because I was not there when David presented 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And this is why it's a little bit difficult for me to understand the context, but what you're saying is really interesting. Sorry for that.
Dan was going to send me the video of 2 weeks ago.
He's just, I think, doing some editing with it to
that's so
perhaps or something to send. So he is
that's very
working
kind.
on it, and it will be with you shortly.
But Romeo and Dinah, you were at the HESS 2 weeks ago. Do you have any question? I remind you that as students, you're bound to participate because your grades are going to depend on that. That's fostering internal and self-motivation.
No pressure.
No, just joking. And I know, Dinah, that you're with Dina, you're with your baby, and so it's maybe not so easy to.
Yes, he's been crying a lot in the background, so I've wanted to mute, but I think he's sleeping finally. My mother-in-law has him for another 10 minutes, so should be good. Yes, I did have a question, something I had noted and did a quick search and was hoping you could share a bit more about was the appreciative inquiry model that you mentioned. I guess kind of, I understand what it aims to do like globally, but could you give kind of a concrete example of like an exchange or interaction, and how it's actually applied? Because before this course, I had never heard of it, so it's still a relatively new concept for me that I find very interesting.
So do you want like the logistics of what it would look like on a day?
Yes, yeah, like kind of like the practical application of what it looks like.
Okay, so there are a group of schools, and we arrange these instructional rounds, they're called, and we give up a full day as leaders to go to one of the schools. So we go to the schools. There's normally about 7 or 8 leaders, and David facilitates. Other people could facilitate, but David always does ours. We have a background of the school by the leader, and they tell us the history of the school. They don't ask us to look for anything. They don't signpost us to anything, and we go into classes across the school over a few hours. We do have a break in between, they're very kind. And you literally write your observations, and you don't write anything negative. If there was something safeguarding, then you would mention it. But the rules are, it's very positive what you write down. So if you see something great, you write it down. Once that's finished, you come together and you work on your own to find strands of what you thought you saw across the classes that you visited. When you've visited those classes and wrote your strands, then you go into small groups of about 3 and you cross-reference those strands and you come up with themes. Then David facilitates a group where we all sit and we say, right, who wants to talk about whatever strand? So it might be, I saw a lot of great questioning across school. I saw wonderful collaboration, and we would go into the details of what we saw. Then David pulls that together into a sentence, which is then a theory of action. Then those, in my case, it was 10 one year, 9 the next, and I can share those. I'll do that after the meeting. And then we put those into a frame, and then that is used as best practice at your school, and then you use each strand on your next school development cycles to make everybody in your school be at that level. So in my first theory of action round, my first instructional round, appreciative inquiry, was it said, when teachers do this, then learners do that. So that means that we only saw it with a few teachers. So when teaching assistants, or when the school does this, depending on how much of that practice we saw. So in the first case, back in 2021, it said a lot when teachers do this or when staff do that. Now it says when the school does this, learners do that. But my staff don't realise that. They don't understand that it wasn't. So one of my staff members, who was absolutely nowhere near on the pedagogy, she didn't realise she were being sort of targeted in a way through this positive experience. So I call it professional development via stealth, because they don't realize it's happening. Because everybody's in it together and it's done with them, not to them. And that's the difference. And I will send them all, I'll send it all over to you. I'll send my first one, my recent one, and I'll send you this document, which I think, Stephanie, will say it on one piece of paper for you. That's my theory of action there, colleagues. Can you see?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it's really small, but it says learning environment, collaboration, use of vocabulary, adaptation of learning, metacognition, questioning, scaffolding. I don't know if you use that term. Yeah. Curiosity in the curriculum. So you'll be able to see the journey that Beaumont's had over those years. And I've put some links on there as well. So it'd be a really easy document for you to have a look at and pass on to whoever you feel needs to see it.
That's really interesting.
Great. Thank you so much for that. My background is actually in public health and not so much education. Education's a personal interest of mine, but professionally, I haven't worked in education. But in public health, I've done mostly over the last few years, mostly like a continuous quality improvement with healthcare teams, and assisted a bit actually in an education CQI project in Chile for a while. So it's kind of in the same spirit of, continuous improvement and teams really having agency, and not, again, like being spoken down to about what you need to fix and all that, but it really coming from within the team. But it's interesting to hear kind of this other model and approach that, again, I was unfamiliar with. And when I'd done the quick Google during the thing, that it has roots in positive psychology. And so I'm looking forward to when you send those materials over to take a deeper look in. So thank you again for sharing.
You're welcome. Share it. And actually, appreciative inquiry is used in all kind of fields, and including public health, I'm sure. A lot in business, because that's where it came from originally. But I'm glad it made its way into education, because I think it's really what teachers need. I mean, they're doing a tremendous and hard work, and they don't need to be criticized on top of that. So that's for sure. And I had one more question. When and how do you make time for the teachers to meet? Is it something that they do besides their working hours, or is it part of their working hours, or how does it work?
So I think we're quite unique in this. So I'm not so sure whether Craig can. I can tell you what I do at my school. I don't know of anybody else who does it like this, but I think we're quite unique. I create a half-an-hour slot every week for coaching, and within that coaching, I say that the coaching is the vehicle for school professional development. So we've just recently finished our cycle on questioning at my school, and I have a coaching champion. So I don't know what it's like for you colleagues, but we have about a 6-7 week half term. And I say that they have to meet within that half an hour at least 3 times within that 6-7 week term. And they have training at the beginning in a staff meeting. Then they have the coaching cycle for 7 weeks. And then we have a celebration at the end.
Oh, nice.
But I've tried coaching in a few schools where I've not been the head, and it's never quite stuck, because the head's not had it's not been in the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
For me, I felt that I wanted it to be at the forefront of that professional development. So I've created that time. If you don't create the time, it won't happen. Yeah. So
30 minutes, it seems manageable. That's impressive.
We've got 24 staff, so I'm not a big outfit. I can't imagine this in a high school. However, if you've got enough, if you believe in it enough, you will find solutions. So and we started with coaching. Can I tell you a little story? I know you're all. So coaching started in September 2021, and I've always loved coaching. It's just been my thing since 2006. And I coached my now coaching champion in front of the entire staff to show how impactful it can be. And she was living with her mum, her dad, and her partner, and she wanted to move out. And she didn't know how to move out because she wanted the 4-bedroom detached house and the life. But as we know, sometimes we don't always get what we want. So I coached her through this problem. I never gave her any answers. And she came up with that she'd buy a flat or an apartment. She bought that apartment that year. She's since sold it, and she's now living in a 4-bedroom detached house. So we even started coaching with personal situations just to get the buzz and the like and the love for coaching. Because if you tell somebody all the time what to do, it's got to come from within.
Of course.
So that's why we use it. So it's a real feel-good story, that, because Nicola is my coaching champion and we're in this beautiful house, and I do feel like it was a catalyst for that. I'm not taking full credit, but just a little bit of credit.
Now, I think it's very interesting also what you say about the difficulty of coaching other schools, because it's the same with interventions. When you do interventions in positive psychology or resilience or whatever with the students, if it's somebody coming from outside who does not pertain to the school, it doesn't work as well when you evaluate the outcome of the intervention. So we really need to be part of the structure. I think it's very important.
And it builds the authentic relationships that you need in a team, because if it's anything like England at the minute, it's a tough job. Oh, mother-in-law's there. Where's the baby? Where's the baby? I want to see the baby.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, it's all good. So I am open to any.
Is he crying, Tina? Is he still crying because we would like to see the baby?
Yeah, no, he's not crying anymore, but she's leaving, so she's bringing him to me.
We'll see him. Fantastic.
So yeah, so I've got a picture of he's not a little boy anymore, but this is him as a man. Look at that.
What's his name? Yes, this is Elio. He just turned 3 months old a few days ago.
Hi, Elio.
And this is his and this is his first Zoom call, I can say. So
hi, all the way from
Elio.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, he's gorgeous.
Thank you. But yeah, I'll just have him here on my lap for the time being till he starts to fuss.
Yeah, I think we're anyway, we won't hold you for too long.
Don't worry.
Stop at the latest at 2:30. Romeo or Janetta, any question?
I don't have any questions. I'm so sorry. I can turn my my camera because I'm on train. So
okay, don't worry.
I'm from Ostrava. I work with Marek Václavík, who was there, and we building a university school in Ostrava. So it's a big inspiration, and also for me because I'm a PhD student. So I'm in the beginning of my career, if I can say it like that. So for me, it's a big inspiration just to listen that. Thank you so much for that.
Fantastic. I've seen that you've been active. I mean, your institution has been active for several years, because I met them in Bielefeld already 3 or 4 years ago, and they were already on the project. So congratulations for perseverance.
Yeah, we are very glad. We are so much glad that we have some financial support and we can start working on it. So we are in the beginning, but we hope it will be as soon as possible in Ostrava.
Fantastic. If you want to come and present the project, even if it's not completely born yet, don't hesitate. I did that a lot before I created the school, and it's interesting to get feedback and to also to help you anticipate some of the things that you can think of, you need to think of. And I was just wondering, how did it all start? Because now you have this big network already. but I guess it didn't start with 5, 7, 10 schools. I guess you had some government support for that, didn't you?
No, it was David was affiliated with the university, and he had this idea, and it grew from there. There are some schools that I was a founding school, so I've been here since the start, near enough. And there's some other colleagues, but I would say that it was David's brainchild, wasn't it? No funding.
No, okay.
No.
Good to know. In France, there has been a lot of discussions about how we bring research and teaching together, and they tried different settings. There's one place in Lyon, which is south of Paris, southeast, and you can answer calls for collaboration, and researchers can go to school, but it's usually on a very specific project, because and that's the thing you mentioned several times. It's teachers do that or staff do that, but it's not the school does that. And in France, we have a very specific way of coming to a new school. It's not the head of the school who chooses the colleagues. It's a kind of number depending on how many years you've been teaching. And so you don't really choose a school because you want to belong to a project. You want to be part of a specific approach. And so it means that whenever there are new people, and there's always a lot of turnover in schools, you may have people who come from wherever. They have different experience. They don't necessarily want to participate in something like that. Of course, it may be the leadership of the head to make them want to be part of it, but you can also have people who are, I don't know, tired, who have different views, and they don't agree. They don't want to get into that. So do you have any suggestion for this kind of obstacle? Not in our school, because we choose the teachers, but my aim is also to contribute to the general school system in France.
I think it's quite similar in this country in some schools. I think Stacey said before, the leaders have to buy into this first and foremost, and create these cultures, because I've been in schools where research is just not on the agenda, and because of the demands of the profession, even if you were to introduce it and present it, it would be seen as a negative, because teachers would be thinking, how on earth do I engage with that? And I think going back to the previous question about time and how you would do that, one of the things that I've come from secondary school, so from quite a large secondary school, and one of the things we did, we had what would on the surface seem quite a robust professional development plan for teachers, but actually it was jam-packed, and there was no option to revisit, no time built in for teachers to go away and develop and come back and refine. That sustained approach didn't exist, and one of the constant bits of feedback we were getting was, we need time to do something with this. And so we ended up kind of halving our professional development curriculum. We said, we're going to focus on some key areas, and we're going to build in time for faculties to work on this, to come back, to showcase, to refine. We had lots of different ways of developing that. But again, that was allowed to kind of manifest because we got a new head teacher in who now works at the university, who facilitated that and said, I see the value in it. We're going to invest in it. We're going to build that time. I think if that doesn't happen, you can have all the will in the world as a teacher or an individual, but if that culture doesn't exist and that time doesn't exist, it will be at best
another thing.
Short-lived. Yeah, I think you would potentially engage in it, but it would dwindle, and the impact would be limited. I don't know if you
well, the great thing about David Hopkins' work is he's got 6 documents which have got all the answers in it. You create a toolkit for your school of collaboration for questioning from that toolkit linked with your context, so you're not starting from scratch. And then what happens is, when you do get a turnover of staff, that's part of the pedagogy, and I'm not bothered if you don't think that collaboration is what we should be doing, because this is what the school does. So they have to fit in. But the great thing about the toolkit, so I've got a brand new teacher who started last year, and he said that those toolkits have helped him to be a good teacher at my school, because he's got the answers. Because I remember starting teaching and just going from scratch and just creating a PowerPoint or whatever I was doing on a chalkboard. I'm not that old. Whereas Phil has been able to say, well, I know exactly how to question because I've got the answers here because it's in the Beaumont toolkit. But I've not created that from scratch. I used David's Curiosity, a Powerful Learning Framework. So what you're doing is you're scaffolding your teacher's understanding of what great pedagogy should be. Because let's face it, nobody's an expert in everything.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm probably, I actually did not know what the word pedagogy meant until about 10 years into my teaching. I mean, that's ridiculous. Whereas everybody knows what pedagogy is in my school, because teaching assistants are just as important as teachers, because they're a part of this process as well. So yeah, it's the toolkits and the frameworks that you have for that common language that Craig said that keep the wheels moving, and then the coaching keeps that at the forefront rather than just a golden nugget that you learned 8 months ago. It is about just keeping going, and I go, and round we go. That's what I say.
I think a lot of head teachers would be interested in France, and I'll talk to David and see whether we can, I don't know, set up a kind of collaboration so that maybe we can translate.
I did tell David I've never been to Paris, and he was shocked at that. So
when are you coming?
A week on Friday. About that.
That's perfect. See you there then.
I would love to come over. And if David's interested in that, that's something we could do.
It would be fantastic, really. Love to have you.
And I'm happy to do Zooms. But remember, I'm just one tiny piece of this lab school, and my context is different to somebody else's. There's so many great people in this group that would bend over backwards to help everybody. They're really great people.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds very promising, and so we'll keep in touch, definitely. And thank you very, very much for taking over David's participation in this seminar. It's delightful. I'm really happy to talk to you. And so with whoever can and want, we can meet again in 2 weeks, and we'll have Lenka, who was here a while ago, to talk about her lab school in Czech Republic in Prague.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you very much, and see you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Bye, colleagues. Bye-bye. Have a nice Christmas.
Bye all.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Elio.
Bye.